Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. Been out working in the garden all day here. We had rain this morning, but it's let up now so I can get a few things done. And I wanted to do a video on just some tips, some things that I've learned from my own personal experience over the years, some things that the old timers taught me. I just want to cover a bunch of different topics here, kind of as fast as I can think of them and rattle them off to you guys. So if you want to grab a pen and paper or something, take notes on this would be a good time to pause that video and go ahead and do that. And just going off the top of my head here, and it's just some things that I think can help you guys. No expensive projects in here whatsoever. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that might go against the conventional wisdom or the things that you see on YouTube, but it's just from my own personal experience. And the first thing here is raised beds. I know a lot of people love raised beds. They use raised beds. I have had a lot of negative experiences with raised beds, and it's been one thing in particular, and what that is toward later summer, they dry out because that raised portion there, the water kind of dissipates faster out of them. You really have to pay attention if you have raised beds and watering, where if the plants are planted at the ground level, they can expand their roots, they can grow their roots to find moisture. But if you put them in a raised bed, they have to grow another foot worth of root to get down to where that moisture is in the ground. Now, that's just been my personal experience. I know people that have had really good luck with raised beds, so don't let that discourage you. But that was something that I wanted to mention here. Now, I actually went down to my local greenhouse this morning and I grabbed a few plants because I wanted to show you a few things here. And the first thing is we always grow a lot of tomatoes, and we use a lot of tomatoes for fresh in the summer. We do a lot of seasonal eating. But then sometimes if you plant just one variety of tomato, or you plant like two early varieties, all the tomatoes come in at once. Now you're just swimming in tomatoes. You got to bust your butt till 11 o'clock at night, canning every night to put that stuff up. It's kind of a pain. So I'm a big proponent of stagger planting, whether it's potatoes or tomatoes or whatever it is. And I bought a couple single packs here of tomatoes. And this one says here, matures in 90 days. So this guy here is a large beefsteak tomato, would be perfect for canning, 90 days to maturity. Now this one here, Celebrity, 67 days. So this gets ripe a lot sooner, but typically the earlier varieties are going to be smaller fruits. And the reason I did that is to show you guys this guy right here is going to be ripe quicker, so we can take this guy here and use this guy for fresh. And then when the larger tomatoes come in, they're better for canning. Then we can go ahead and we can can them. And we have some for fresh right away. And then later in the summer, we have some stuff for canning. So we don't have just like at 67, 70 days, we don't have just all the tomatoes come in at once. Herbs, I will typically plant in a separate place. I won't plant all my herbs just right in the garden. I'll have a separate bed specifically for them. And the reason that is, I actually got my herbs planted in an old ringer washer that I found, and it's got a drain hole in the bottom, which makes it perfect for gardening. It's got drainage. I'm going to get to that drainage in a little bit later in this video too. And I can cover that up. So then I can extend that part of my growing season, and I can keep those herbs fresher longer. I don't have to worry about frost so much in that old, ringer washer that I have there. And that way I've got fresh rosemary and thyme and stuff for like the holidays when I want to do some holiday cooking. Another thing that I do is I cover my plants. I will typically put my plants out 2 weeks earlier than anybody else, again, to extend my growing season. And I will use cut off milk jugs I'll use those as a hot cap. I'll just take a milk jug, I'll cut off the bottom portion of that. It still lets the light in. I still have a hole in the top that I can open so I can harden off that plant. And I can add, I can put water down in it if I want to water them. And it's cheap and free. Another thing is I do a lot of turning the ground over by hand. And I've learned some things over the years. And this is probably the most important thing that I have learned over the years. I have clay soil here. And the reason I have clay soil isn't the natural soil that's around here, but where my house and these houses around here were built back in the 1940s, they brought in what they call sugar beet fill dirt. We have sugar operations and stuff around here. So then when the sugar beets have been stored all winter, there's usually these big piles of earth ground that are left over. And, the sugar processing places want to get rid of that. They used to give it away. Now they charge you like a nominal fee for it. But that good clay ground is good for growing. But then again, it's good clay ground. So it gets very, very hard if it gets dry, and it's hard to turn over. And what I've learned over the years is if I use a fork, just like a regular harvesting fork like this right here, this does a much better job if I'm turning over that soil to break that up by hand compared to just a regular shovel. So it's another use for one of these guys right here. And the older I get, I want stuff to be easier, right? So I have went to the fork as far as turning soil over by hand. And I like that ability to, interact with the earth and interact with the ground. So I don't mind, doing it the hand way. A lot of soil will have deficiency in the micronutrients in the soil, especially if you have a small garden and you're planting in there year after year. Most fertilizers, organic fertilizers, whatever, commercial fertilizers, whatever you like using, most fertilizers, have your three major components. They have your nitrogen, your potassium, and your potash. Those three are your major nutrients that plants need to grow. But just straight up fertilizer, even some of the organic stuff, just has those components in it. It doesn't have any of the micro nutrients in there. Stuff like calcium and magnesium. And those are your two big ones that get leached out of the soil, and you'll start getting stuff like blossom end rot. You'll get certain scales and that kind of stuff on your tomatoes, whatever. Cucumbers, your potatoes can have, maladies and stuff. But calcium and magnesium, you can tweak that yourself. And what I like to do is get some Epsom salts and take 2 or 3 flakes of that Epsom salts and put that in your hole when you're starting your tomatoes or whatever. Mix that into the ground. That'll put a little bit of magnesium into the soil. It won't overdo it, and it'll start to replenish some of those micronutrients. Calcium is another one. You can take eggshells, you can pop them in the oven, you can get them brittle, and you can pound them up and make them into a powder. You can add that to your soil. And another thing is just plain Tums, plain antacid, are calcium. So if you break out about 1/4 of a tablet, bust that up into a powder, mix that into the soil where you're putting your seed start in, again, that's going to add some calcium into the soil. Now, I just take eggshells and I will typically just crush them up and throw them into my compost, which I might even show you here later because I got some other things that I want to show you. Natural things for your compost. Nitrogen, one of the best sources of nitrogen that most people have is coffee grounds. Coffee grounds have a huge nitrogen content. They're very good for the soil. So if you have coffee grounds, it's a good thing to add back into your compost tumbler. I got a compost tumbler. They're probably going to go up in price here with everything that's going on. That's one thing that maybe guys should look at getting. Chicken manure is another one. Chicken manure was my mom's gold standard as far as what she put in the garden. And chicken manure, basically, you can just add right into the soil. Another manure that you don't hear a lot of people talk about is horse manure. But horse manure is very, very strong. So Mom would always compost the horse manure for probably 18 months to 2 years before she would actually use it. But again, it's very, very good. Now, let's say you don't have time or whatever to put the micronutrients back in the soil. If you're going to go out and buy a commercial fertilizer, make sure it says a vegetable fertilizer on it, because the vegetable fertilizers, again, will have some of those micronutrients in it. That's why you got to read the fine print when you're putting in any type of purchased fertilizer. Anyway, I'm going to take my camera here. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to give you guys some pointers on planting in buckets. Buckets planting has been extremely popular over the last few years, especially with preppers. If you don't have a lot of space, or if you only got like a patio or something, or you got a whatever, you got a little bit of a walkway in an apartment or something that's outside, you can set buckets there and you can still grow yourself some potatoes, some tomatoes, that kind of stuff. But I got some tips here that I want to show you guys. Just stick around. All right, guys, this is what I wanted to show you here, bucket planting, or planting in 5-gallon pails. Now, the first thing is the price of the pail. 5-gallon pails have skyrocketed in price over the years because of the prepping movement, because of a lot of different factors. And what used to be either free or just dirt cheap has become very expensive. I've seen some 5-gallon pails go as high as $7, $8 a piece. But there's still places where you can get them on the cheap. And where I get one of the places that I get them on the cheap is I get them at the local big box store at the bakery. I go in there and maybe 4 times a year, and I say, hey, do you have any frosting buckets that you can sell me? And I got these this morning, and they were $1 a piece. So I paid $1 for these, plus they came with the lid. And the lid is sometimes more valuable than the bucket itself, especially if they have the O-ring in here, because these will seal down pretty tight. Always, always, always take the lid, because sometimes you can sell these lids separate after the fact. So I wanted to mention that as well. And the first thing I did with these guys here, I didn't really do anything as far as washing them out, because these are going to be planting buckets, but I punched some holes in the bottom. Those guys right there are 3/8. You want to go either 3/8 or 1/2-inch holes. You want about anywhere between 8 and 10 holes in these buckets, and that's for drainage. That is the most important thing when it comes to container planting, whether it's flower pots or whatever. You have to have drainage, because once these get outside, if you get too much water in there, it will destroy your plants quicker than a drought will, actually. So you want to have drainage. But then how do you facilitate drainage? Now, how I facilitate drainage is how my mom taught me, basically, and that is with either gravel or pea stone. And where do you get pea stone? Where do you get gravel? Now, any place that has any type of manufacturing, construction, agriculture, industry, whatever, is going to have some type of cement plant. They're going to have a place that, goes out with the cement trucks to, do the different work that needs to be done laying cement. Every one of those places is going to have multiple different types of either gravel or pea stone, and you want a fairly fine gravel for this. I got basically fine gravel here. You can get pea stone. Pea stone are a little bit rounded, and what you want to do then is you want to put about 2 inches into your 5-gallon pail, just like this right here, and that's going to keep those holes from plugging up. Any excess moisture that's going to get into your earth or ground here, that is going to drain out. Okay, now we talked about the containers, the drainage. And another thing, 5-gallon pails like this, when they're outside and you're planting potatoes or tomatoes or whatever in them, you get about 5 years out of these, and then they photo degrade. And what'll happen is they get brittle. You're going to go grab one of these by the handle one day, and you're going to rip the handle right off of it because it has gotten brittle. So these don't last indefinitely, but you can get about 5 years out of them. I've got probably 4 or 5 that I've got 4 years on right now, and this is going to be their last summer. They're going to be toast by the time the end of the year goes around. And 2, there's a lot of different ways that you can make different filters and stuff with this gravel and pea stone. So, I paid $1 for a bucket of pea stone, and it lasts a couple of years. So hit up those cement places and get yourself some gravel. It's got a lot of different purposes. But once you get, your decent pail, you got your holes drilled in it, you got 2 to 3 inches of gravel or pea stone in the bottom, you want to add ground. Now, your perfect soil is 1/3 clay, 1/3 loam, which is like your black ground, and then 1/3 sand. Those 3 components added together make your perfect soil. Typically, most soils are going to have either too much of one or the other component. So you're going to have to maybe tweak that. like my soil here, I said was at my house, is mostly clay. I can add sand in it. I can add sand, I can add loam, organic material into it to loosen that clay up. And my one garden in particular, I've been doing it for years, is starting getting to the point now where it's loose enough it doesn't get rock hard in the middle of summer. My other one though is about 6 or 7 years behind the first garden. That is still rock hard in the hot summer months. And now you can, if you don't have access to any type of natural soil or ground, you can go out and you can get the purchased stuff. You can get purchased potting soil. I would not recommend topsoil nowadays. Years ago, topsoil was good, but now topsoil, they grind a lot of crap in it. It's mostly fill dirt. You definitely want to check out your soil in your bags. A lot of the stuff is kind of basically junk nowadays. You really want to look at it and scrutinize it, especially if you want to grow your vegetables. And this ground right here is what I got out of the woods. And basically what this is this is a sandy loam. It has a lot of organic material in it, and it has a lot of sand in it, which you can kind of pick up there, the little grains of sand. This is really good to use for this particular application, but if you're getting ground from nature, there's going to be weed seeds, there's going to be that kind of stuff in it. Now you can actually sterilize this soil in small batches, and I did a video on that years ago. I will put a link in the description for that video as well. But if you're using natural soil, you got to expect a little bit of weeds or that kind of thing in it. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this type of ground and soil is the acidity. Typically, if you get ground out of a woodland environment, it is going to be slightly acidic because of all the natural organic material that is in that soil. That makes it really, really good for potatoes. Potatoes like a slightly acidic soil. So this stuff right here is great for potatoes, just the way it is. And I'm going to put this in with a little bit of my home made compost. Now, I will throw all our, vegetable scraps. If we got a rotten potato in potato bin, whatever, that gets thrown in here. And also, like I said there earlier, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is a little piece of eggshell that found its way in here. And I will throw eggshells in there as well because that adds natural calcium in it. And typically when I make my compost over winter, first thing in the spring, I will put a good shovel full of this compost into every hole where I put a plant or a start in. And compost can be really anything. It can be leaves, it can be sawdust. Sawdust actually works pretty good, but it has to be sawdust. It can't be, the chips. And the other thing is I will not discard any type of store-bought potting mix. So if, neighbors got hanging baskets that they're discarding in the fall, or they got some kind of bed that they tore down where it's got a lot of potting soil or potting mix in it that might be 4 or 5 years old, I will take all that soil and I will throw that into my compost bins. And then of course I will add in my other stuff, my coffee grounds, my scraps, sawdust, whatever that I might have. I will add that in, and I will basically recharge that potting mix, potting soil, however you want to call that. And that gives me another basically free resource that I can make into something usable to use for my plants or my vegetables. So anyway, I just wanted to share all those tips with you here. I want to make this video as short as possible, but I could go on for a whole hour talking about this stuff. But hopefully that was some of the key points here that will help you guys out. None of this stuff is too expensive. And get out, throw some potatoes in the ground, grow some tomatoes, grow some herbs, anything that you can grow yourself. You are establishing some independence, and that's what we need in this day and age anymore, is a lot more personal independence. Anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got some information, some entertainment, and some good gardening tips out of this video here. You guys have a good one.